Ready, set, hut, hut!
As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sound of gold and blue football.
Almost heaven, West Virginia.
Now let's bring on the Mountaineers. Goes around about the 50, the 10, the 5. A touchdown, West Virginia. He did it.
He did it. Patrick White. Touchdown, Tay Von Austin.
The Don Nehlen's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels fear to tread.
I think you think that these guys are going to fall over dead for you. Well, I got news for you. They're going to punch you right in the mouth. It's Mountaineer pride!
Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football. West Virginia football.
We've no doubt tonight they shouldn't have played the old Golden Boot. Not this night!
They've done it. They've done it. A perfect season. And the Mountaineers, for the first time in history, undefeated and untied.
Don Nehlen and his Mountaineers, for the second time, have finished a regular season with an unblemished mark.
Ain't no stopping the gold and blue.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome back into the Country Roads webcast. We're providing you West Virginia sports content from Mountaineer fans for Mountaineer fans. Here today to talk about the West Virginia football roster on EA Sports College Football 27 here on our June 26th live stream here on the Country Roads webcast. Appreciate you guys tuning into this one, whether you're watching live or on a playback. Plenty to discuss here, and of course, your comments, questions, all that's always welcome here. If you're in here live, throw them in the chat there. I'll hit on some of those here towards the end of the stream. And, of course, if you're watching on a playback, you can leave those in the comment section as well. Always appreciate that. And either way, you can help out with a like button and by being sure you're subscribed to the channel. So before I get into the WVU football roster, which EA Sports just released the full rosters for release day today, there's a few things I want to preface this with, and that is the fact that EA Sports uses 85-man rosters on their video game, and we all know that teams now have 105 plus players on their roster in general, so there's at least always going to be 20 to 30, somewhere in that range of players that are left off the roster already. But there can be more than that too, because not having the chance to opt in, not being enrolled at the time that they kind of finalize their opt-in list, all of these things. And a lot of times the freshmen and JUCO players are the ones that kind of suffer and don't get included. But there also is subject to change on this, right? Because this is the initial roster for, opening day of the game, release day of the game, but they do roster updates throughout the game's lifespan. And we've seen, some WVU players not be included, then be added later. I think that will happen again this year because by my count, some of you may have seen me put this out on social media, there are 55 WVU players that aren't included on this college football 27 roster. When you go through the total roster, which that's the first thing I'll do is I'll pull up the list of the players that aren't included on the roster. And then we'll go over to the EA Sports website, pull up the roster, and highlight the ones that are, take a look at some of their ratings, all of those things here on this stream. So what I can tell you, in addition to the 55 players that aren't included on the WVU football roster, is that there will be 20 fictional players on West Virginia's roster on release day as well, because when you look at the roster, you'll see there are 65 players, 65 NIL players, 65 real players, whatever you want to call it, on the WVU football roster. And as I said, there's an 85-man roster on the game, meaning, do the math there, 20 fictional players will be on the West Virginia football roster on release day of EA Sports College Football, which for a lot of us is July 2nd, July 6th, and then, of course, the traditional release is July 9th. There's technically 3 different release days, I guess you could say, because you got the early release with the MVP Plus membership on July 2nd. Then you have the other early release with just the deluxe edition on July 6th, and then the standard release on July 9th. But here's what we know about West Virginia's football roster. Like I said, 55 players that aren't included. Let's highlight those first. Then we'll pull up the roster and kind of go through it, comb through it, and talk about who's rated too high, who's rated too low, all of those things. But here are the 55 players that aren't going to be on the roster initially. And like I said, a lot of these guys are going to be JUCO and freshman guys and still subject to change. Like I said, these guys could be added at a later date in the game. Some of these guys will be. But some of these guys won't be because, like I said, there is an 85-man roster, and West Virginia has, 105-plus players. So some of these will be added. Some of these may not be added at all on College Football 27. But having said that, here are the 55 players missing on College Football 27 here on release day. Quarterbacks not included: Jaron Hughley, John Johnson, Wyatt Brown, and Max Anderson. So 3 freshmen, the redshirt freshmen, none of those included. The 3 quarterbacks that are included, of course, we'll talk about those when we get to the roster list, but you can kind of gather who those are. Running backs that won't be on the roster for West Virginia on College Football 27 here on release day: Martavius Boswell, Andre Devine, Darius Morant, Lawrence Autry, and Sir Paul Cheeks. The most curious one to me here is Andre Devine because he was on the game, the past couple of years when he was at, Jack State, and then for some reason not on here at WVU. Curious to me that he's missing, but anyways, we'll roll on here. The wide receivers that are missing from West Virginia's roster on release day of the game: Keon Hutchins, Kedrick Triblett. Like I said, that goes to, the JUCO players. A lot of them aren't included here on this game. I think I only saw 1 or 2 that made the cut. JUCO and freshmen a lot of times get left out. So Keon Hutchins, Kedrick Triblett fall into that category. Also not on the roster: Camden Pitchford, Malachi Thompson, Robert Oliver, Greg Wilfred, Charlie Hannafin, Brad Mosser, and Landon Drum, all missing from the roster as well. A couple of tight ends missing from the roster for West Virginia: Carter Zuliani and Xavier Anderson. And then on the offensive line, a little bit longer list: JUCO transfer Deshaun Woods, not included; Raymond Kovaleski, Griffin Fogel, Andreas Hunter, Trevor Bigelow, Aiden Woods, LaMarcus Dillard, Camden Goforth, and Jonas Muya, all not on the roster for the Mountaineers. That wraps us up on the offense. Defensive players that missed the cut here: edge rusher that's left off is freshman Noah Tischendorf, not included on the roster yet. Other defensive linemen: Gabe Ryan, JUCO transfer Jalen Thomas, Quentin Goins, Carter Kessler, Yinder Mack, and Cam Mallory, all missing from the West Virginia roster as well. Then at the linebacker spot, Antoine Sharp, Cameron Dyer, and Trey McLaughlin, all missing there. Freshmen that didn't get included there for the Mountaineers. At the cornerback spot, we're missing Rayshawn Reynolds, Jaden Bell, Damon Allen, Alex Adebayo, Mekhi Boone, Vincent Smith, and Samaj Hill, all missing from the roster currently. Then the safety spot, surprise Jacob Bradford, not included, but I don't know if he was on the game or not last year. I'd have to go back and look and see if he was on the LSU roster, but not included on West Virginia's roster here on opening day. Also, Shane Cornali, Ricky Giles, Miles Catchery, Emery Snyder, and Jaden Ballard missing from the West Virginia roster. And perhaps the most glaring omission that I find really curious is none of our kickers are included on the opening day roster. We're going to have a fictional kicker because Jack Cassidy, Nate Flower, and Peter Notaro all are missing from the roster. So those are the 55 players not included on the West Virginia roster as I scroll back through here to the top of the list. Which leads us to, let's talk about the players that are on the roster and talk about some of their ratings here. So I've got this pulled up. Let me pull this up here. See if I can make this a little bit bigger for you guys. That's a little bit better. So I got it filtered just by West Virginia, and you see right here showing 65 results. And they didn't include the fictional players here on the website. So that means there's 65 real players, 65 NIL players, whatever you want to call it, on West Virginia's roster to start college football 27. And as I said, they field 85-man rosters, which means there will be 20 fictional players on West Virginia's roster when you start up college football 27. So let's go through this position by position here and talk about who's included. Let's go just through in traditional order, same way we went through just now. If I can find, there's quarterback. Okay, so here are the 3 quarterbacks included on West Virginia's roster to start the game. As I said, you probably guessed who they were. Michael Hawkins, Scotty Fox, and Max Brown. Good to see Scotty Fox on the game this year after he wasn't included last year. And like I said, that kind of just goes to a lot of times those freshmen get left off. But as we look at the quarterbacks here, we see Michael Hawkins with the highest overall, with a 79 overall. 90 speed is going to be fun to play with as well. Scotty Fox is 73 overall and 82 speed. So the good thing here is all three of these quarterbacks can run, which for me is great. I love that on college football video game. Scotty Fox, a little bit lower overall there with a 73, still higher than Max Brown, who is a 72 overall, but he's also 82 speed. Okay, let's go check the running backs now. Go here. We'll include the fullback too, because we only have one in Caden Luke, of course. So 3 running backs is all that made the cut for West Virginia as far as real players, which means there's going to be multiple fictional running backs on the game, I'm sure. And, of course, Caden Luke included at fullback. So the halfbacks, Cam Cook, we've talked about him a little bit on the channel already. One of the top 10 rated halfbacks on the game with a 91 overall. Also comes in with a 91 speed rating. Amari Latimer, the second highest rated running back for the Mountaineers with a 76 overall. 86 speed. It feels a little low for me. But, that's all right. Like I said, a lot of this stuff will be adjusted in future roster updates. Some of these guys' overalls will improve. Some players will be added at later dates. But you also have true freshman Chris Talley on the roster for the Mountaineers as well. He's a 74 overall and 89 speed. I think his speed should be at least in the 90s, personally. Just my opinion. But 74 overall and 76 overall for a true freshman is actually fairly good. And then you have Caden Luke, the fullback, with a 73 overall, 76 speed on the game there. So let's move on. Let's go to wide receivers here now. So here's the wide receivers that did get included. And I was happy to see DJ Epps on here because I know he wasn't on the game last year. It looked like he may not have been included on some screenshots that were shown previously. There are still going to be some fictional receivers, obviously, as we highlighted, all the ones that are missing. But Jaden Bray and Prince Strawn, the highest overalls, both with an 80 overall, both 88 speed. DJ Epps right behind them with a 76 overall and 90 speed. Then you get John Nider and Teron Francis, both with a 75 overall. I like the speed rating on Francis there with a 91, 88 for John Nider. And then rounding out the receivers, the NIL receivers that were included is Cyrus Straw with a 74 overall, 90 speed, and Armani Weaver, 72 overall, 88 speed. Don't know why his speed's not at least the 90. I mean, I personally think he's faster than Cyrus Straw, and definitely seems faster than, John Nider and some others. Armani Weaver's got some speed to him, so maybe that's something that'll get raised throughout the game's lifespan. But that's the receivers that are included for the Mountaineers on their opening day roster. And then tight end, where I will say they did do a good job including a lot of the tight ends, surprisingly. Like I said, the only couple that were left off there when we went through that list were Carter Zuliani and Xavier Anderson. As you see, multiple, real-life tight ends here for the Mountaineers. They did a good job getting the freshman tight end on here, surprisingly, with Sam Hamilton and Cade Bush. Really surprised they included those guys while leaving off some other, higher-rated freshmen coming into the class, but neither here nor there. The tight ends for West Virginia, Josh Sapp, 75 overall, 77 speed. 6'7" Cam Ball with a 72 overall, 70 speed. Good speed on both Sam Hamilton and Cade Bush with 80 speed each. Sam Hamilton will be a 70 overall. Cade Bush will be a 66 overall. They don't have a long snapper position, so they just always list your long snappers along with the tight ends. So that's why McGuire Moss is listed here as a 66 overall. I think probably one of the most underrated players on the game is Ryan Ward. Why is Ryan Ward a 66 overall? No idea. Got a chance, to be a featured tight end for West Virginia this year, in my opinion. Also, 81 speed is good, but, man, that's one that I think definitely will change throughout further updates is the overall for Ryan Ward at the tight end spot. So, with that, let's go O-line here, and we'll just go position by position. That way it'll be easier to kind of shift through. So, there's only one left tackle that's included currently, which means there's going to be multiple fictional left tackles. And they have Karsten Cassidy listed at left tackle, 77 overall for him. Let's go left guard here. Where I am impressed that they do have Nick Cray moved inside to guard like he has in real life. Have him listed there at left guard, 78 overall, and then Josh Isosa, 66 overall behind him. Feels low for Isosa, maybe even a little bit low for Cray, but those are the 2 left guards that were included by EA Sports. And let's go to the center spot here. where they really gave Landon Livingston a pretty high rating. They listed Landon Livingston at center, they listed Wes King at center, and they list Cameron Griffin at center there as well. So do have 3 centers included, which is nice. Landon Livingston, the highest overall there with an 85, Wes King at a 76, and Cameron Griffin at a 74. On to the right guards here now, where you have Bubba Grayson, really high overall there as well with an 84. Devin Vass with a 78 at right guard, and Philip Bowser with a 64 at right guard. And just, judging by the way this is set up, there's definitely going to be some guys I'm going to play at different spots. Maybe you want to play Devin Vass at tackle. Maybe you want to play Bubba Grayson at center. All of these things, of course, are possible. These are just their given position on the game. You can set it up how you want with your depth chart, of course. But then we go to right tackle to round out the offense here. And we do have 3 right tackles listed. I'm a little surprised Rhett Morris is included, and, they didn't include guys like Camden Goforth and Jonas Muya as well. But pretty good overall for Rhett Morris for a true freshman at 72. Highest overall right tackle was Malik Agbo with a 79 overall. Kevin Brown at 74 feels low to me. Higher rated freshmen are, usually 77 to 81 overall, somewhere in there. So I kind of expected him to be probably a little bit closer to Malik Agbo, like a 78 or 79. 74 feels a little bit low, but maybe he's got a good development trait and will progress fast, and that overall will improve. And I'm sure if he ends up a starter for the Mountaineers, he'll get a nice little bump in his overall once the season rolls around as well. So those are the offensive players that are included for the Mountaineers. Let's go defensive side here. And then once we do all this, I'll kind of sort it by some of the rating categories as we can here and talk about some of the top 10 overall players, top 10 fastest players, all of that. We'll do that as well. But I just kind of want to go through the roster initially first. Let's start defensive tackle, where they did do a pretty decent job with the West Virginia defensive line. I will say that as far as, including enough players. At the defensive tackle spot, they have Nate Gabriel as a 77 overall, KJ Henson as a 74, Taylor Brown as a 74, Corey McIntyre Jr. as a 73, and then newcomer Will LeBlanc is currently a 78 overall for the Mountaineers there. So there's the D tackles. Let's go to the edge rushers, and we'll just put both left and right edge on here. Save us some time here. So edge rushers, Harper Holloman and Ezekiel Durham Campbell, both with really good ratings here. Harper Holloman's listed as a right edge, Ezekiel Durham Campbell at the left edge, but both 80-plus overalls. You get 83 overall for Harper Holloman with 83 speed, 80 overall for Durham Campbell with 79 speed. What's really impressive, though, is look at Toby Hostrop, 86 speed. That's phenomenal for an edge rusher here on the game. 76 overall for him. David Afogo with a 75 overall. 72 overall for Darius Wiley, 70 for Brandon Caesar, 69 for Wilner Telemock, and a 67 for Jeremiah Johnson, who I think speed is severely low. He needs to be at least 80+. And that's what he does, man. He's a speed rusher. So those are the edge rushers for the Mountaineers included on the game, which takes us up to the linebackers. And we'll do these position by position because I'm pretty sure that they didn't include one of the 2 linebacker spots at all. But listed at will linebacker, the linebackers are severely low rated right now. When the ratings came out for West Virginia on the game, which I've highlighted in the past, they have a 76 defense rating, and I think, you can see reasons why. Look how low the linebackers are rated here. Malachi Hood, 69 overall. Jason Hall, 68 overall. Ashton Woods at a 65 overall is criminal. That's criminal. He's got to be somewhere in the 70s. 81 speed is nice, but I don't know why his overall is so low. I think that, 2 of the players that I think really are underrated on the game here are Ryan Ward and Ashton Woods. Both those guys should be much higher than they are. And then you have Cam Torber, 65 overall, 77 speed. Let's go to the Mike backers. Ben Cutter, 77 overall, 80 speed. Newcomer Tyler Stolsky, 76 overall, 79 speed. And add Isaiah Patterson to the underrated list, 62 overall, also pretty criminal for him. No way he should be rated that low. 81 speed is nice, though, but criminally low overall for Isaiah Patterson. And I think we don't have anyone listed as a sandbacker, if I remember correctly. Let's see. Yeah, no real-life players listed at the same backer spot, which means there will be some fictional players included there. Let's go to the corners. So at corner, Jameer Latimer listed as the highest rated corner, 78 overall. Jair Rollison with the 73. Keyshawn Robinson with the 73. But both Keyshawn Robinson and Jameer Latimer, impressive speed here. 93 speed for Keyshawn Robinson. I believe he's one of the fastest players on our entire roster. We'll talk about that more here in a moment. Jameer Latimer, 92 speed, also really nice. And then also sharing a 73 overall with Rollison and Robinson is Nick Taylor. Then you got Malik Hawkins at a 71. Chom's Giant at a 70. I think Chom's Giant's a little underrated as well. Kamarius Bomar, 67 overall, 89 speed. Both Kamarius Bomar and Amani Weaver, who are brothers, funny enough, are underrated speed-wise. Both those guys can really be pretty fast, and I think their speed's a little underrated. But those are the corners for the Mountaineers. Let's go to the safety spots here. We'll go free safety first, where they have Andrew Paldrell and Matt Sieg tied for the highest overalls there. Good overall for Matt Sieg, especially as a true freshman. Like I said, I thought Kevin Brown would be a little bit higher. I think Matt Sieg's, right around where I thought he'd be. But definitely got a chance to, you can start him on the game if you want here. It just depends on, do you want the experience of a guy like Andrew Paldrell, or do you want the young guy like Matt Sieg in there? Both 75 overall and 89 speed. Then you have Cameron Reddick with a 69 overall and 87 speed, and Damari Williams with a 64 overall and 88 speed. Damari Williams being one of the only JUCO players that got included here on the roster, missing, the other corners, the offensive linemen, and the JUCO receivers here, as you guys have seen when we went through the missing players list. All right, let's go to the strong safeties here now. And only one real player listed at strong safety for the Mountaineers, and that's Kamari Wilson. Great overall for him, though. 83 overall, 87 speed. One of the higher-rated players on defense for the Mountaineers in the game. May actually be the highest-rated. And, of course, kicker, we don't need to pull up because we know they don't have any kickers listed on here. It's going to be fictional kickers on the game. Why, I don't know. But at punter, Brian Hansen there, 84 overall. Really high rating for a punter here, actually. So with that, we went through each position and showed all the 65 players that are included on the opening day roster. And as I said, there will be 20 fictional players included here as well when you open the game. And we went through the 55 players that were missing from the roster. Let's sort this by some of these categories here. Let's go overall first. So here are the highest overall players for the Mountaineers. Cam Cook, obviously the number one with a 91. Then you got Landon Livingston at 85 overall. Amari Grayson at 84 overall. So nice to have two offensive linemen highly rated to go along with your really good running back. Brian Hansen, fourth right there with an 84 overall. Harper Holloman and Kamari Wilson are the two highest rated defenders. I thought Kamari Wilson was up there. So both an 83 overall. Then Zeke Durham-Campbell with an 80 overall. And then a couple 80 overall receivers with Jaden Bray and Prince Strawn. Then you go Malik Agbo with a 79. Quarterback Michael Hawkins with a 79. Which, personally, I thought Mike Hawkins would be in the 80s, but that 90 speed, you can definitely work with that. And then you go here with a 78 for Devin Voss, 78 for Jameer Latimer, 78 for Nick Cray, and then on down the line there. So those are some of the highest overalls. If you want to go the other way, cannot believe that they have Isaiah Patterson as the lowest rated on the roster. That's criminal. I think when you look at this, Ryan Ward, Ashton Woods, and Isaiah Patterson definitely should not be rated as low as they are. They should be at least in the 70s, maybe even mid to high 70s in my opinion. So those are probably the most underrated players for me. Ryan Ward, Ashton Woods, and Isaiah Patterson here as we look through kind of the overall list there. Let's sort this by speed. Let's talk about the fastest players on the West Virginia roster here, which they kind of gypped us on speed a little bit, but at least we have some guys with 90-plus speed. I think we're a little bit faster than we were on last year's game, especially at the wide receiver spot. But the fastest player on the roster is Keyshawn Robinson with a 93 speed. Jameer Latimer not far behind with a 92 speed. And then Cam Cook with a 91. Teron Francis with a 91. Cyrus Trawl with a 90. DJ Epps with a 90. So right there you see three receivers with a 90. And how about Michael Hawkins? What are we at here? Seventh fastest player on the roster. I guess you could say tied for fifth fastest player on the roster for Michael Hawkins. So your 90-plus speed guys on the roster initially, Keyshawn Robinson, Jameer Latimer, Cam Cook, Teron Francis, Cyrus Trawl, DJ Epps, and Michael Hawkins. Then you get into kind of just missing the cut of that 90 speed rating, Andrew Paldrell, Kamarius Bomar, Chris Talley, Matt Sieg, and Armani Weaver. I think the ones that have probably the most underrated speed here for me. Chris Talley, Armani Weaver, Kamarius Bomar, all should be faster in my opinion. But there we are as far as speed is concerned. What other categories we got here? Strength. Who's the strongest players on the roster? So Josh Isosa, funny enough, even though he's lowly rated with a 66 overall, does come in with a 90 strength. Bubba Grayson at 89, Nick Cray at 87, Wes King at 87, Cameron Griffin at 86, Devin Vass at 86. So pretty much all your linemen, as expected, your strongest players here for West Virginia. It's all offensive linemen until you get down to Nate Gabriel, who's 83. But look at Amari Latimer. Amari Latimer, they may have underrated his speed, but at least they did give him hella strength here with the 82 grade there. Probably be able to break some tackles for you, as he's the only skill player listed here, among the strongest players on the roster, which is pretty impressive. It's all pretty much linemen besides Amari Latimer, which is pretty cool. So now let's go ahead. Agility. We'll check that out too. Michael Hawkins having the best agility on the roster is something, man. He's going to be fun to play with. 90 speed, 92 agility. That's fun right there. Nick Taylor, 92 agility. Cam Cook, 91. Keyshawn Robinson, 91. Armani Weaver, 90. Chris Talley, 89. DJ Epps, 89. Jameer Latimer, 89. Several 89s there. Matt Sieg included there as well. So some agile players there for you. What else do we want to check out? I'm not worried about injury or awareness. Let's go change of direction. So change of direction. Keyshawn Robinson up there with the 91, as is Nick Taylor, and Matt Sieg with the 90-plus change of direction is nice. Then you get Armani Weaver involved there. See, Armani Weaver doesn't have bad change of direction and agility. I think they just underrated his speed a little bit. Cam Cook with 89 change of direction, and Michael Hawkins, 89 change of direction. Man, the QB run game is going to be lethal with Michael Hawkins there here on the video game. Then you get Chris Talley, 88, DJ Epps, 88, Malik Hawkins, 88, and then, of course, Jameer Latimer, Kamarius Bomar on down the line there. So there that is. I think we've pretty well covered it here. So right now it is launch ratings, but you can see in the future you'll be able to check out the weekly updates here as well once they start happening, which that's the main thing, I guess I need to say here is a lot of these players that are missing, a good majority of them will be added in the future, hopefully at least 20 of them, so that we can get rid of all the fictional players that are on there at the start of the game, because as I said, 65 real players, 65 NIL players included. It's an 85-man roster. That means 20 players are fictional here on the opening day of college football 27. But wanted to hit on that with you guys. Also, I think this will be coming out in article form here on BlueGoldSports.com in the near future as far as the players that aren't included. I did make a list of the 55 players that are missing there that you can read in article form as well. So if you missed the first part of this stream and you don't feel like going back and rewinding, which I hope you do, hope you go back and rewind it and watch the whole stream over. But you can check out the 55 players that missed the cut there in article form as well here in the near future. I'll share that on my social media once that comes about. But let's see, we got some comments here for sure. I see my guy Mountaineers headline, where'd you find that? I want to look at it later. Yeah, let me drop the link to the full West Virginia team ratings here in the chat, in the live chat, and I'll try and drop it in the video description for you guys watching the playback as well. That's a good idea. So there it is in the chat there, and like I said, I'll put it in the video description for you guys watching after the fact or whatever as well. And before I get to the rest of your all's comments, may as well go ahead and hit a shameless plug here, because if you guys are fans of this college football video game, I'll be running a Dynasty series with West Virginia in addition to putting out other gameplay content, and I cover all of the news for it on my other YouTube channel, which is CFB. Let me drop the link for that in the chat as well. May as well while I'm dropping links here. And, of course, if you're watching after the fact on playback, it's JC''S CFB if you want to follow me there. Watch me play with the Mountaineers on College Football 27 and follow all the news there on that video game and get some gameplay tips and all that fun stuff. I'd appreciate that as well. So with that being said, let me catch up on some of your all's comments here, and then we'll call it a show. Just wanted to talk about the West Virginia roster, kind of detail it for you, everyone that's included, and kind of highlight who wasn't as well. Some players that are definitely underrated in my opinion. Royal Plum Club says, nice breakdown watching from the Florida Keys. Appreciate that, Royal Plum Club. Appreciate that a lot. Means a lot. Hope you continue to tune in and hope you are subscribed to the channel. James Weekly says Scotty Fox is way too low. I'm suing. This is BS. Hey, I agree. He's a little underrated. I figured him and Michael Hawkins would have more similar overalls. I am kind of partially impressed that they gave him at least an 82 speed. That's nice. And more so than anything, I guess the brightest spot for me there is at least he's on the game this year. Missed having him on the game last year. Was upset that he never got added in last year. So at least we got him on there from the jump this time. James Weekly says, I hope I don't got to go get 45 players in year one again. Yeah, that was the issue last year, right? They didn't have any of the freshmen hardly. I mean, this year they're missing a bunch as well, but last year we had so many seniors that after year one, man, if you didn't have a good recruiting class, it was a disaster in dynasty mode. I think this year will be a little bit better. They did do a better job of including at least some of our true freshmen. You know, we got Kevin Brown, we got Matt Sieg, we got Amari Latimer all on there. And I'm hoping that more of the freshmen and JUCO guys will be added in a future update. What I hate is that hardly any of the JUCO guys are in there, because I think at receiver we could get some good speed on the game with Keon Hutchins and Kedrick Triplett and such. So hopefully they get added in the future as well. UCF only has 60 players in all. James Weekly said he went through and looked at some of the other rosters as well. Well, you know, that could be worse than. We got 65, they got 60, so they're going to have, what's that? We got, hold on, let me do the math, 25. They'll have 25 fictional players. The Mountaineers will only have 20. And my hope is for this game, and like I said, maybe some guys didn't opt in as well. You always have to, you know, take that into account. But I think that, in my opinion, EA uses 85-man rosters. Teams have 100-plus rosters. There's no reason not to have only real players on the roster after a certain point. Maybe here on the initial one, you don't have, you know, the freshmen and JUCOs opted in yet. You don't get their paperwork or whatever. So you have 20 fictional players like the Mountaineers do here right off. But there's no reason you can't replace those 20 fictional players with 20 of the 55 players that we highlighted that are missing from the roster. I think, you know, by the time they're done with the roster updates, there really shouldn't be any fictional players. And that's kind of been my big criticism thus far is why are there so many fictional players? You know, especially now that you have a 100-plus man roster. But that's just me bitching a little bit about it. But I will say it is nice to, you know, have the real players on the game here since this video game came back versus back in my day when I played, you know, NCAA football and you had to go on and edit the entire roster because, you know, there were no real players or anything. You had to download an edited roster and all of those things. But hopefully some of these players that are missing get added in throughout the game's lifespan is my main hope for sure. Manager said, if I get the game, we got to play a game. Yeah, let me know, dude. We'll run one. We'll run one for sure. I'm down with that. But having said that, guys, I guess pretty much all I had for you. Appreciate you guys that tuned in here live with your questions and comments. If you guys didn't get a chance to tune in live, you're watching a playback, throw them in the comment section as well. I'll respond there in due time. And either way, be sure you hit the thumbs up button before you head out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Really helps me out here. Appreciate that. And hey, join as a channel member. Football season's approaching, and there's a ton of bonus content coming at you if you become a channel member here of the Country Roads webcast. But having said that, guys, there are the details on WVU football's roster on the opening day of college football 27. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll catch you on the next one. And until then, let's go Mountaineers.